Hey guys, welcome to another edition of VG Facts 5 Trivia, a show where we tell you all about pieces of trivia surrounding different subjects. Today we're looking at clever anti-piracy tactics that developers have used to take on piracy of their games. Some developers have taken the fight to a whole new level by getting back at pirates through clever methods of subtle trolling, trying to make the pirate's life a living hell. And we're not just talking about always online DRM, which is practically trolling everybody, even those that buy games legitimately. I'm sure we all know what video game piracy is, so we'll keep this intro short. From nightmare-fueled difficulty to headache-induced trips of insanity, here are just a few sneaky tactics used by developers against people pirating their games. People who managed to find a pirated copy of Grand Theft Auto 4 were in for a surprise after they managed to load up their copy of the game. If the game recognised that it was an illegal copy, the in-game camera would start wildly shaking as if it were a camcorder being held by a scared teenager in a horror movie. Though entirely playable from start to finish, some people who play the game may begin to feel lightheaded from the erratic movement. Not only that, but the game is near and impossibly difficult to play, making almost every single action the player takes a real struggle. Of course, as is the case with most anti-piracy of this manner, the bug was patched by pirates and it was then able to be played as if it were a legitimate copy of the game. The Vuvuzela, an instrument that grew to fame a few years ago during the FIFA World Cup of 2010. Famous for being incredibly loud and incredibly annoying, the sound is often considered to be comparable to a swarm of bees or a drill being driven through your skull. That's why when the sound of the Vuvuzela was added to every track heard in the Michael Jackson The Experience game on the DS, many people were confused. Of course, the only people who heard this had pirated the game. Those who owned a legitimate copy heard the songs as they were originally intended. I will let you be the judge as to which version you think is better. The less you know about the game Cross Days, the better. It's safe to say that this game is not something you would consider safe for work or suitable for children. What you might be interested to know about, however, is what the developers did to anyone who happened to pirate a copy of the game. Any copy that was illegally downloaded came with a Trojan virus disguised as an installer for the game, which presented a survey to players which they needed to fill out, asking them for their personal details. In addition, it would take a screenshot of whatever was on the person's screen at the time. Both this screenshot and the user's personal information was then posted online for the whole world to see. The only way of getting this taken down was by publicly admitting to illegally downloading the game. This both shamed them for their piracy ways but also their perverted ways. Crisis Warhead had a very peculiar set of weapons for people that pirated the game. When trying to shower their enemies in bullets, the results would actually just be showering the enemies in hordes of chickens instead. That's not all, as not only will the player only be able to fire chickens at their enemies, but those enemies themselves will only be able to spray the player with chickens of their own. What would normally be a massive firefight will quickly become nothing but a giant cockfight instead. As you can imagine, these chickens would cause no damage, and thus make the game uncompletable until the anti-piracy was patched out. The developers of Game Dev Tycoon, a simulation game in which you take on the role of a new game development company, knew that their game would eventually be pirated. So, by giving in to the inevitable, they themselves uploaded a cracked copy for pirates to download. This has happened a few times in the games industry, but don't think that you would get away with playing the full game for free quite so easily. Just like in the real world, there are repercussions for pirating a game. In this version of Game Dev Tycoon, when you have a product released in-game, it will be extensively pirated, resulting in major losses in money and eventually losing the game due to bankruptcy. A special message is then displayed, letting the player know that the fate of their in-game company is the same for real-life developers too, due to their own real-life piracy. Many people who pirated the game would flock to forums to ask how they could stop their games created in the simulator from being pirated, some even asking if there is a way to add DRM to the developed games to stop the piracy. Wow, seems like they really miss the irony of the entire situation. That's all for today, but why not subscribe to our channel or follow us on Facebook and Twitter? Have an idea for a list? Leave it in the comments below and we may just pick up on it. And hey, why not check out some of our other videos?